What's going on, guys? Andrew here, and I'm bringing you another one-on-one with the Cinephile. And I heard some very interesting news the other day. Jordan Vogt-Roberts, the man responsible for directing Kong Skull Island, was recently approached to direct the live-action Metal Gear Solid. In the article that I've read, he mentioned that he's going to be taking characters and storylines from various versions of the video game. Since the entire Metal Gear franchise spans 50 years, he's going to pick and choose the characters he wants in his Metal Gear Solid movie. Saying and hoping that he's a fan, he's going to pick the right character and the right actors to portray these characters in the movie. I'm going to give you guys a list of actors whom I would love to see them play as certain characters. So on that note, I'm going to start with the backbone of the entire Metal Gear Solid franchise, the man who's essentially in every single iteration of the games, and that's Big Boss. And the man that I see playing him the best would be Ray Stevenson. You saw him as the Punisher in Punisher Warzone. He was in an entire season of Dexter. I think he's great. He could play a good guy. He could play a bad guy. I think he's a great actor, and I think he would do the role justice. You need to start out with someone that could play the character as a young version of Big Boss, and then, of course, as an older version of Big Boss. That is the way I see it, and I think Ray Stevenson can do that. And I hope that they find someone that is able to incorporate not just the facial features, but embody the spirit of what was known as Big Boss. The next person I want to talk about would be Big Boss's mentor. You need to get the character right. So you need to find the right actor to play the character, because this person is responsible for creating one of the greatest soldiers in the history of not just America, but in the entire world. So when I picture someone along the lines of the Boss's caliber, the first person I think of, and I hope you probably think the same thing, is Charlize Theron. If you saw her as Furiosa in Mad Max, if you saw her in Atomic Blonde, you know exactly what I mean. Charlize Theron encompasses the role of the badass, kick-ass, fighting soldier that Big Boss is, and I think Charlize Theron would be excellent as this character. My next choice, obviously, would be Revolver Ocelot. This one is a very difficult choice because you need to think of someone who's essentially a cowboy in an era of military and soldiers. I would watch random movies, and try to find soldiers that would encompass cowboys. So the first person that I thought of, Barry Pepper, was the first one that I was able to spot, and he was in Saving Private Ryan. I've seen the man dress up as a cowboy, so I think this would be a perfect fit. It's a large responsibility since Revolver Ocelot, is seen sporadically throughout the entire franchise, and in the very end, he is the primary villain. I would love to see him as Ocelot. I think he would have a lot of fun as the character. The next person on my list was Roy Campbell. I think the best interpretation would be Joel Edgerton. He's got that face. I could picture him in the uniform. I think he would be a great addition to the entire Metal Gear franchise as a whole, the entire Metal Gear Solid universe. He would look really good as Roy Campbell. This one is going to be tough because Cypher is essentially the bad guy that keeps getting away. So the first person I would try to watch films that had to do with a mastermind, someone that was pulling the strings behind the Iron Curtain. So the first person that I thought of was Bruce Greenwood. He was in Star Trek. He's Admiral Pike in Star Trek. I think he's got the look of Cypher, and I think he could play a very credible villain. Cypher is like the Moriarty of Metal Gear Solid. He's always one step ahead of Big Boss. He's a step ahead of Solid Snake. He's a step ahead of the entire US government. So I think Bruce Greenwood could pull it off. I mean, he's a man who portrays not just a soldier, but a superior officer to almost everyone. There is no one above him. Bruce Greenwood, I think, could pull that off very well. Kaz Miller looks basically like Iceman from Top Gun. Val Kilmer is a little on the hefty side these days. So the person that I think of right now is actually Daniel Bernhardt. He played Agent Thomas in The Matrix. He also played in John Wick, and he was also in Atomic Blonde. He knows how to fight. He can play the soldier part really well. I think he would be a good leader in the entire Metal Gear Solid universe. I would love to see him, standing next to Big Boss. Daniel Bernhardt as Kaz Miller could do a whole lot with the character, so yeah. Gray Fox was never really confusing to me because the first and only person that I thought of was actually Ray Park. His movements are more fluid and articulate. If you saw him as Darth Maul, if you saw him as Snake Eyes, even if you saw him as Toad in X-Men, I think his movements are portrayed really well. You don't need to see his facial features. You can get the expressions, his emotions, through the movements of his body. So I think Ray Park would be an excellent Gray Fox. Solid Snake. Some people will probably not agree with me, but I don't care. I think Liam Hemsworth would play a great Solid Snake, especially in the years to come. You give him an older looking face, you give him some facial hair, you put a cigar in his mouth. Again, you can modify the voice in post-production. I think he would portray Solid Snake perfectly, especially since you can easily cast his brother as Liquid Snake. Chris Hemsworth would be a perfect version of Liquid Snake, and seeing these two go at each other in the film, I think would be freaking awesome. It would be epic. And I think Liam Hemsworth deserves a movie where he could be associated with. We already know Chris Hemsworth is Thor. I want people to associate Liam Hemsworth as Solid Snake. I don't want him to be associated with that part he played in the Hunger Games. And last but not least, one of my personal favorites, Raiden. Though some people may not like him, I think he would play a great live-action character, and I could easily see Peter Fasinelli as Raiden. If you watch, Twilight, one of the Twilight movies he's in, with the pale white face, blue eyes, blonde hair, I think he could play a great Raiden. I don't want to use the term androgynous. I think he could really do the character justice, and I could easily see him starring in his own spin-off film. These are the actors that I'd love to play these characters. Guys, what did you think of them? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, please don't forget to subscribe.